अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाज़रीन, आज हम गुफ्तगू करने वाले हैं सोशल वर्क की एक बहुत ही मशहूर व मारूफ हस्ती से, जिनका नाम प्रोफेसर सुरिंदर जसवाल है और आपका ताल्लुक़ टाटा इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ सोशल साइंसेस से है। और ये इदारा हिंदुस्तान का सबसे पहला सोशल वर्क का इदारा भी है। मैं आपका खैर मकदम करता हूँ मैम। आई वेलकम यू एट मौलाना आज़ाद नेशनल उर्दू यूनिवर्सिटी फॉर दिस प्रोग्राम, फॉर दिस टॉक।
माय प्लेजर।
थैंक यू। तो मैम शुरू करते हैं हम लोग अपनी बातचीत। वी यूजुअली स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द क्वेश्चन दैट अबाउट योर जर्नी फ्रॉम अ स्टूडेंट ऑफ सोशल वर्क टू एन एजुकेटर ऑफ सोशल वर्क। हाउ डू यू सी दिस लाइफ ट्रैजेक्टरी ऑफ social work professional?
I think the journey begins actually a little earlier than the program that you attend for social work, because most of us, given that in India social work programs admit students who come from non-social work backgrounds or even non-social science backgrounds, the motivation to join a social work program is what I think first defines you as a person and frames your understanding. So I have a BSc background, and I have enjoyed the sciences, and amongst the sciences I chose to do chemistry honors in my undergrad, enjoyed it. लेकिन वो करते करते ऐसे लगा कि सब्जेक्ट तो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है, जो कर रहे हैं उसमें मज़ा भी आ रहा है, लेकिन उसका फ्यूचर क्या है? मतलब what will I do after I complete the BSc chemistry? Because the only future that I could see at that point in time was being in a laboratory with test tubes and working in an individual and solitary manner. So I started to think, and this is in 1979-80. So at that time the choices in education were very few. You either took science or you took arts, and in the arts came all the humanities, sciences, social sciences, etc. So I started to look around for the first time. Now in our country you have what I call uninterrupted education.
Right.
You don't really have time to stand, reflect,
right.
gaze, understand yourself and what you want to do in life. So this was an opportunity for me at the undergrad level to start thinking that if I don't want to work in chemistry, though I enjoy the subject as a discipline, what is it I want to do? And I went and reviewed all the colleges in Mumbai and came across this place called the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, where the program of social work was being offered. And courtesy my journey to different colleges, I understood what is being done in the field of education. And I think the 2 years at TIS, I chose to do it because I liked working with people. I wanted to do something where I could initiate some social change, not only be a participant but also be more than a participant in this community of people. So in my journey, I think that was the most defining factor, because as a student then, I continuously, the question of what is it that I'm learning, what is it that I would like to do, how will I do it, what do I need to do in order to do it? Those were constant questions. And after I finished my program, and it was I think a life-changing program, because I learned to look at things differently. I understood society very differently. I started to locate myself as a person in a very different way. I understood, I think, gender, which in science, there's nothing like gender.
Right.
You're studying science, that's it. And you're good at a program or you're not good at a program, that's it. So here, the politics of life, the exclusion of people, what brings about equity, what is human rights, what is social justice, who are the populations around us who are excluded, privileged, why? I think those larger questions, which should actually be part of everybody's journey as a person, started. And so my journey began there. But you still don't know what is it you really want to do, because these are large questions, big questions, and you are just at the start of your journey of understanding what and how you want to do it. Right. So I began by first actually teaching in my own department for a year. I was asked if I would like to teach because one faculty had left and they wanted me to join. I did that, but I felt I was too raw There was a lot I needed to do. I needed to work out in the field to understand society, to understand societies, communities, nation, you know, all that. To dirty my hands, as we call it. वो मिट्टी में हाथ गंदे करना वो बहुत ज़रूरी है experience, exposure, understanding के लिए. But I think the most important decision which I made in my career. So somebody asked me a question and I, you know, जब आप शुरू में आपकी डिग्री मिलती है, confusion तो है, clarity नहीं है, but your vision is big. You think you can do everything and anything. So someone said, what is this social work? Which is a question which continues to be asked. And I said, well, we bring about social change.
People say कि social work के अलावा क्या कर रहे हो? Social work तो सब करते हैं.
Right. So then when this person from Bihar heard me, he said that आपके इरादे तो बहुत अच्छे हैं, लेकिन आप रहते हैं Hong Kong of India, which is Bombay, Mumbai, that time Bombay. यहाँ आप बदल ला सकते हैं, लेकिन आप यही बदल हमें बाहर करके दिखाइए किसी और भाग में, इंडिया में, फिर हम मानेंगे कि आपका सोशल वर्क पावरफुल है. And that got me thinking that I had no understanding of other parts of the country, even though I thought Bombay was being as diverse as it is and people from every state, I was exposed to a whole lot of diversity. I thought I knew everything. We all do at 20, 22. But I decided that the next job I would do would not be in Bombay. And I went to the Northeast. I had an opportunity. I met my future partner. I told him, let's take a posting far off. I went to Assam and located myself there in order to understand the diversity in our country. And I think it was an eye-opener. I worked with NIPSID. I wrote out my own proposal. I worked with the tea gardens of Assam. I saw labor, children, excluded populations, physical geographies I had never seen in my end of the world. From that, I think clarity in terms of what I would like to do started to come in. So I had graduated in medical and psychiatric social work because I came from a health background and I thought that substantive learning is important, and because I had a health background, it would be most useful in this particular discipline. But I started to interrogate medical and psychiatric social work now and say that health social work in isolation is not enough. We need to look at it in the whole, and that Assam showed me that you can't look at people's well-being only through their physical health and so on. So I can do a whole day on this.
बहुत दिलचस्प है मैम आपकी ये जो जर्नी है और इस जर्नी के जो challenges हैं. Related to that, my next question is that what are the significant challenges you feel as a social work educator, and how these challenges can be met?
Very complex question. Very complex. I think we are forever looking at the challenges that this profession, this discipline throws up. And as we discussed in the last conversation we just had, I think what is social work is the most challenging question. Because
still we are locating the definitions of social work.
It is 87 years of introduction of professional social work teaching and practice in India, and clarity about who is a social worker, what is social work, what are its boundaries, what are the responsibilities, what are social workers supposed to do in terms of the work that they take on in different systems, in open communities. That is something which is constantly being negotiated. The reasons for it being that I think as a country we chose not to bring in licensing. We chose not to give, like say in the field of medicine or psychology, after you finish a program you get a registration which validates that you can do this particular, you can practice this profession. In social work we felt that if we did that we would be limiting the work that we could undertake and the people who could join us on this journey. So the paraprofessionals, the community workers, the local populations, who are partners in the work that we do in social change. So registration, licensing, it was felt, would delimit the inclusion of others who were part of this journey. But in the long run, it has become to some extent self-defeating. इसमें क्या हो रहा है, क्योंकि कुछ defined groups and कुछ defined roles and responsibilities बाहर की दुनिया को नहीं दिखती है, तो वो haziness, ambiguity and lack of clarity continues. And this impacts all the work that we do. So it's a continuous struggle to define ourselves, to negotiate with policymakers, to work on inclusion of the programs and changes that we want to institute in society, in systems. And it has become what I call, in many ways, the work we do is humongous. बहुत बड़ा काम है, and it is never ending. Because we do it, you have new stakeholders and players, and you start from scratch. Because you are convincing every new stakeholder of your role and what needs to be done, and beginning from there. I think it is time for us to now relook at what we had decided, that not constraining, उसको हिंदी में क्या कहते हैं, not to limit it, did not register, give licensing, etc. But over a period of time, the scientific frame of education has become differential. So a Tata Institute of Social Sciences or a Delhi School of Social Work or a Jamia Millia or a MS Baroda is not the same as the hundreds of other schools of social work which exist across the country.
Right.
Which is being unjust to the students who join the program in the different schools. At the same time, it also means that the perception of the profession by others is also not unified. And what we can deliver and how we deliver it is also not similar. So we have a similar value base, we have a similar set of principles, but the way it is understood and the way it is practiced, the way it is researched, the way it is taught in education is differential. And that is creating its own backlash. And I think we are continuously, therefore, fighting for the profession to be recognized and given its due. So there is a time to look at, I think, this particular challenge head on.
Thank you, ma'am. As you say that it's a very complex context that the social work is living in, and the boundaries and the areas that it is looking at. I mean, there is no any issue, social, environmental, any sort of issue that social work doesn't put its feet in there. So it's very necessary now to revisit and relook our professional strength, capacities,
Correct.
and the where to limit it. Related to this, ma'am, my next question is that if we look at the Indian social and cultural context, it's very diverse, and in this diverse cultural context of the country, what innovative social work pedagogy that can better incorporate the culturally sensitive social work curriculum and the social work pedagogy? So put some light on that, ma'am.
Yeah, I wish I had some good words in Hindi which would express it, but you have touched a raw nerve, as we say.
दुखती
नब्ज़ पे हाथ रख दिया. Yes, because I think the very diversity and cultural richness which is part of our nation is also the most challenging aspect in social work. It is the best part because it allows us to explore, understand, integrate into our practice the best of many cultures, of all the diversity that exists in beliefs, rituals, community perceptions, community contexts, and so on. but to give it one frame becomes almost impossible. So that which will work in the north of India may not be relevant in the south.
Right.
And when we say north and south, it's a huge, actually again diverse group.
And most of the times we talk about the model curriculum.
Correct, absolutely. And so I'll give you an example, something that I worked on for a long period of time. Farmers' suicides.
Yes, ma'am.
So my home state where I worked and I've grown up, Maharashtra, it has for a long time it's been the red state, as we say.
Yes.
That means the farmers' suicides are unabated, they continue. The government has done a lot, both the center and the state, in bank loans, in providing certain supports, in many economic measures, some social measures, etc., etc. We at the Institute also came out with a white paper which was presented to High Court to, understand what can be done. But in spite of what we have been trying to do for the last 20 plus years, we continue to be in the red. Now, to give you a parallel, why giving one uniform answer would be probably not easy. There were other red states like Pondicherry, Tamil Nadu, Punjab, where also farmer suicides were prevalent. Over a period of time, these states have been able to get out of the red. Now the closest physically would be Pondicherry or Tamil Nadu. I have studied what happened in these states, what was the response and what worked there and what is it that is not working in a developed state like Maharashtra, where the per capita is higher, the population profile is of kind where we don't have these kind of problems of self-harm, etc. And we realized that one answer fits all is not going to work, because what worked in Tamil Nadu, which is diversity of livelihoods, the fact that they have palms, and if the rainfall fails and the farmer loses his or her crop, they have alternative livelihoods which are ongoing.
Yes.
So that there is a backup. We expect individuals to be able to respond to a systemic problem.
Okay.
Now agriculture is a state subject according to me. The farmers are feeding the nation. The system needs to take care of some of these eventualities and provide alternatives, whether it is livelihood, support, family care, education. And not only when there is high number of suicides, you say, okay, the electricity will not be charged for this year. The bank loans will not be, you don't have to pay back for this year. But that does not take care of the systemic problems. And I think this is what social work over a period of time, while continue to respond to needs, provide services, do welfare, it needs to look at the whole. It needs to look at that in this diverse population, what are the systemic structural responses that will be sustainable. And that would be probably different for certain population groups. And in these population groups, the diversity is not only geographic, it is about the different populations that we have, minority, major, the gender fluidities, the other intersectionalities that exist in a population. All of that has to be understood and responded. So social work needs to prioritize. To understand it, you must have ongoing research. You must document in order to be able to understand and disseminate the knowledge that you produce. From that, you need to have informed interventions and negotiations with policymakers and the state to institute those systemic changes which serve the diverse population for the future. So it's not actually a quick answer.
Yes.
इसमें आप रेडीमेड नहीं हो सकता है. एंड सोसाइटी इज़ डायनेमिक. सो ऐसा भी नहीं है कि जो सिस्टम आज आपने बनाया वो अगले 50 साल वही रहेगा. हमारी हिंदी जो है वो बम्बईया हिंदी है. So my Hindi is not going to be the kind, you know, that you speak. So you have to also, that complexity and dynamic nature of people-centered work, community-centered work in a diverse population, in a population which is culturally also diverse. You have to be not just sensitive to it. That sensitivity is not only about being empathetic. It is about responding,
responsiveness,
and putting, as we say in English, your money where your word is. So you have to be able to correct it. You have to be able to provide a solution for it. And I feel in social work, now the time to only use words to state we stand by you, to state that we understand, is gone. Well, that is something we need to do in the first semester of the program with
something
students,
like action should be more
it has
important
to
than
speak louder than words.
words.
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am. Yes.
I think it's time we did that, and so we need to interrogate this diversity. We need to come together and have clear agendas. We need to, from the agenda, strategies and responses. And this needs to be revisited, at least like we would every we used to have 5-year plans, so minimally I think 5-year plans need to be done for the profession as a whole. Because unlike medicine, where your organs, in your body you have certain organs, they respond in a particular way. Even then research shows how particular drugs will act better or quicker. Even there research is constantly feeding what you need to do. We can't say that just the methods of social work, the history and philosophy of social work, learning, research, you know, and the few courses that we have is enough to prepare you for life and to work with all populations and understand everybody's diversity and to be so somewhere I think we're being a little what we say grandiose in our understanding of what this profession has the possibility to do. Yeah,
right, ma'am.
Yeah.
So नाजरीन, इसी कड़ी को आगे बढ़ाते हुए अब चूँकि हमारी मुलाकात सोशल वर्क कांग्रेस की निस्बत से हो रही है, तो मैं मैम से ये जानना चाहूँगा कि हाउ डू यू सी दिस कांग्रेस इन द होल परस्यूट ऑफ व्हाट वी आर डिस्कसिंग नाउ, एंड व्हाट आर द क्रिटिकल कंसर्न्स दैट वी हैव विद रिगार्ड टू सोशल वर्क एजुकेशन, पेडागोजी एंड प्रैक्टिस.
So I think some of the things I have raised in what I was kind of responding to in your earlier question. But what is, I think, very good about the Congress is that it has brought together diverse educators, scholars from across the country, and all of them have substantive experience, not just of teaching, but of doing research in a diverse group of subjects in different populations, and have faced different challenges. So I think annually it is an opportunity to define agendas, take a call or monitor what has happened in the immediate past, and relook at our social work education, its pedagogy, research and practice, to see to what extent they are relevant, they are responding to what is required in the country, and what are the challenges, new challenges particularly, which are being thrown up, and what have we been able to do or not do about them. And of course, one very good way is to present papers. So people come with what it is that they have been engaged with, as well as the larger question, and they pose it both through the information that is provided and the questions that they have in their mind. This opportunity to hear each other, understand diverse issues is important in order for us to revisit on a regular basis the pedagogy and curriculum of social work. Because what we spoke about, the complexity, the dynamism, you can't have a standard static curriculum to respond. Similarly, in research to define new areas of work and intervention. I want to say here that every time I have spoken with social work colleagues or educators at annual events or in congresses, one of the things, my reviews and my reflections and critical thinking before attending the Congress, what it has provided is that in India, because our practice is so rich, the field reality is so diverse, practice leads in India. So if social work education allows and learns inductively from practice and its diversity, I think we will be able to come up with pedagogies, curriculum which are unique, which are the call of the hour indigenous, and which respond to that which is really required.
I can infer, ma'am, that we need to focus more on the field work aspects of social work education, where we can capture more and more diverse, complex phenomena happening in the field. And also there is a need to document these field work experiences.
Yes. So field work, yes, we need to document, but documenting in a free-flowing manner serves a cathartic purpose. You know, the student is able to understand what he or she did or they did, and what has been left out. So when you write, you see the whole instead of, you know, that one-on-one in the field where the student is just responding, reacting many times. So documentation helps that purpose. But for the documentation to be relevant, we need to have also frames of document, how manuscripts are to be written. What should guide that manuscript? So even your practice, I was talking to you a little earlier about this, ethical frameworks. I think we need to have very clear ethical frameworks of practice. Say in psychology, when you do therapeutic work with a person, you are conscious of the responsibility you have towards that person because they are sharing their life with you, and probably what we call secondary trauma, revisiting, reliving the trauma, and the way you respond, the way you practice, you have a supervisor to whom you go after you finish the work, who guides you and who supervises your work. There is an ethical accountability here for what you do and how you do it. Somewhere we think that because we mean well, whatever we do is fine. And because at the core we are responding to social justice and human rights and working with the most marginalized and vulnerable, what we are doing is fine. But I think that's a misnomer. In fact, because we are working with the most marginalized, vulnerable, excluded, they don't have a voice. And if we don't understand that they don't have a voice, meaning we know that they don't have a voice, but we take it for granted somewhere. So having an ethical frame of practice for how we will practice, what framework we will use, how we will document it, which principles will guide us, I think it's time for us to take that and the diversity of our population makes it even more challenging.
Yes, ma'am.
Otherwise, power and power equations which exist will deepen, get wider, and we may end up doing what we are trying to prevent, injustice.
Yes, ma'am.
And taking away the rights of the population. This is a never-ending conversation, so I think this is just the start of what we probably need to
But I think that there is a lot of take from your responses, and we shall certainly give a lot of thought and discussions on this, ma'am, and we'll also contact you as well in future, that how can we better incorporate the ideas and the concerns that we have raised in our social work curriculum, teaching learning processes and the field work as well as in research, ma'am. नाज़रीन, आपका बेहद शुक्रिया और हम मैम का भी बेहद शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं कि आपने हमारी दावत को कबूल किया और अपने मसरूफ़ औक़ात से हमारे लिए वक्त निकाला। मज़ीद जानकारी के लिए इस पते पे राब्ता करें।
I want a last word.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
I wanted to thank you all for taking this initiative, for helping us to reflect, ruminate, and think through our own positions in terms of understanding of the profession, understanding our role as educators, researchers, and practitioners. Because I think as an ongoing activity, this is very important in order for us to be conscious of where we are and what we are doing. And it's a journey which only fellow travelers like you can walk with. So many thanks and congratulations to you and your department for both the Congress and this initiative.
Thank you very
it's
much.
very, very
Thank
well
you so
done.
much, ma'am.
Thank you.
आज के लिए इतना ही। आइंदा फिर मुलाकात होगी एक नए मेहमान के साथ। बेहद शुक्रिया।